3 years earlier, this same shoreline had been the stage for an audacious dream. 115 settlers, men, women, and children, had been left behind to build the first permanent English colony in the New World. They were meant to be a foothold of empire, a light in the so-called darkness of an untamed continent. But the world they were promised never existed. The soil was poor, the supplies ran thin, and the governor, a man named John White, was forced to make an impossible decision. He left. He promised to return. He sailed back to England for provisions. He promised to return within months. But the Spanish Armada swept across the seas. The ports were sealed, and the months became years. When John White finally returned, he was 3 years too late. And what he found, or rather, what he didn't find, would become one of the most durable mysteries in all of human history. Here is what John White wrote in his journal when he stepped onto Roanoke Island that August morning. We saw no sign of any man, of any creature, where we had left our people. The houses were taken down, and in their place, only silence. There were no corpses, no scattered bones, no fresh graves. None of the signs you would expect from a massacre or a famine. The village had not been destroyed. It had been dismantled, piece by piece, as if someone had carefully, methodically, packed up an entire civilization and walked into the trees. Croatoan, carved into a tree at the edge of what was once their home, and on a nearby post, just 3 letters, C-R-O. White, who had helped design the colony's emergency signals, had been very clear. If the settlers were ever forced to leave under duress, they were to carve a Maltese cross as a distress signal. There was no cross. There was no cry for help. There was only that word, carved into the wood, as if to say, we are not gone. We are simply elsewhere. For 4 centuries, the mystery of Roanoke has been pulled at like a loose thread. By archaeologists, by historians, by treasure hunters desperate for a tidy resolution. But every time the thread is pulled, the tapestry of rational explanation frays a little more. In recent decades, excavations across North Carolina and southern Virginia have uncovered fragments of a trail. English pottery, copper coins, the barrel of a firearm, scattered along indigenous trade routes far beyond the original colony's borders. The evidence suggests a story far stranger than a simple disappearance. The colony did not just vanish, it fractured. It split apart, moved inland, and threaded itself into the already existing fabric of indigenous America. The settlers did not die alone in the wilderness. They were absorbed. They were changed. But the core mystery has never been where they went. The core mystery has always been why. History books favor clean answers. Famine, conflict, assimilation. But the archaeological record is uneasy. Because the colonists dismantled their own homes, they packed their possessions, they moved with deliberation, not in a panic, and they left a message that did not scream for rescue. What if we have been asking the wrong question all along? What if the question isn't where they went during a crisis, but what they were already experiencing before they left? The Roanoke colony existed at a collision point between empires, between cultures, between a world that was ending and a world that was beginning. They were isolated, hungry, and staring into a wilderness whose rules they didn't understand. Maybe the veil didn't fall on them. Maybe they walked behind it and chose not to come back. Today, the descendants of both the English settlers and the indigenous tribes they encountered still live along the Atlantic coast. Their DNA, their stories, their bloodlines, they did not vanish. They endured. They adapted. They became something new. And yet, that single word, Croatoan, refuses to lose its grip on the imagination. It has become a shorthand for the unexplainable, a ghost story, a campfire legend, a warning that some things are not meant to be found. The lost colony of Roanoke is not a story about what happened in 1587. It is a story about what happens when a civilization steps across a boundary it cannot see and never returns. It is a story that is still being written in the soil, in the blood, in the unanswered questions that keep us returning to that quiet, fog-laced island on the edge of America. Thank you for watching this episode of Ancient Veils. The mysteries we explore here are not just curiosities. They are the wounds history left behind, the stories that didn't make it into the textbooks, and the truths that were never meant to see the light. If you believe that some veils deserve to be pulled back, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and tell us in the comments, what do you believe happened at Roanoke?